So of all the groups of buyers out there, I think the military members, former military members, current military members,
Myself.
yourself, the VA buyer is absolutely the one who is hurt the worst right now.
Cool.
They are, yeah, it's awful.
It's great.
Who would think that the government would do something to go after
man.
the former military, the people that serve this country? So basically, military VA buyers using a VA loan are not allowed to pay for a buyer's agent. And again, I mentioned all these different government entities that say different things. In the VA doctrine, it says they don't believe you need a buyer's agent. Well, we know for sure that especially on those deals with VA appraisers having a reputation of being harder, whether or not they are, VA sometimes not winning the offer because the seller goes with somebody else. They need a great agent who's going to know what WDO is and that it requires a clear WDO, that there are inspections that have to be had, the time frames, and they're not allowed to pay for a buyer's agent. And now that there's potentially the idea that sellers may choose to forego that sort of concession for a buyer, they're going to get hurt so bad. And I really hope that the VA comes out with a rule like the FHA did, like the GSEs did, to state that sellers have always paid for these things. It's common, and we're going to allow that. And now the way the document works, you can't even do a buyer broker agreement with a VA member.
Wow.
How about the fact that a lot of VA members have been coached that VA financing is 0% down, which it is, but they also hear sometimes that it costs you nothing. So they get into this transaction. If they go directly to a listing broker, and that listing broker, who's supposed to be negotiating on behalf of the seller, doesn't offer to put in there that the seller will contribute money to the buyer's closing costs, now you're 2 weeks before closing. They find out, wait, I have to bring how much to the table? I have to bring $6,000 to the table. I was told I didn't have to bring anything. And now we're 2 weeks before closing. They potentially let their lease lapse on their apartment. They're going to be homeless because they can't have representation. And it's just another one of the things, they let the bull loose in the china shop. They were trying to break something that was just built, the court case was built on a foundation that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And
so the losers in the case are military members.
I think the losers,
the biggest losers.
I think the losers in the case are first-time home buyers, VA buyers. I think there's a loss to the public in the lack of transparency that commissions would have been on everything. They would have been on every website. Now they're not going to be.
And the winners are the lawyers.
The lawyers, the head
greed.
corporate greed. And it's just a shame. The plaintiffs would be saying to them, well, you just go directly to the listing broker. The problem is in many states that's illegal, could be considered dual agency. In the state of Florida, you can transition to be what's called a transaction broker. But as a transaction broker, you're not supposed to be looking out for them. And so the first-time home buyer who needs the expert advice more than anyone, or our military who needs an agent who can help them navigate the process.
And always moving to a new town where they don't know anybody.
Unfortunately, they have just been left in the lurch, and they are going to be walking into buzzsaws because in this state, if somebody's agent is representing the seller with loyalty or as a single agent, and somebody comes direct to me, I am statutorily directed by the state constitution to look out for my seller. And so that buyer coming to me, they're going to be negotiated hard against because I have to look out for my seller. And that's just a shame. It shouldn't be like that. And like I mentioned before, you have government entities just this week, Fannie and Freddie, come out and say, in essence, a seller can pay for a buyer's agent and that concession will not count against the maximum allowable concession a seller's giving because, and it was their own words, sellers have always paid commissions. But the case that went in front of the jury, they argued buyers pay commission, and the DOJ sent a letter in stating that buyers have done that it's been inflated and sellers shouldn't have had to pay for that because it's inflated costs, and because of this settlement, prices are going to drop, which that's not going to happen at all. Not one seller out there has said, oh, I'm going to lower the price of my home 2% because of the settlement. Isn't going to happen. And so in essence, what you're left with is one hand of the government saying that sellers are paying. One hand of the government saying that buyers are paying.
The president saying, we can negotiate now.
And we always could. It's just such a shame because, they basically let a bull loose in a china shop.
Yeah.
They're breaking everything and then they're going, oh, wait, we didn't know that was going to break.